Greetings and thank you for joining me. I wanted to share in this particular video about how I came to I hate to say keto, because if you say keto, then people are going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. So let's just say that um, I want to share how I came to this diet. It's actually a two-part story, so I'm going to share part of it today and then I'll share the rest of it another time. The reason why it's a two-parter is because it begins with my mom's story, actually. So, just very briefly, she wanted to get her salt intake under control. This was in July 2019. And when she asked, she lives with us. She's got some other health problems that, she needed some help with. So, anyway, um, she asked me to help her get her salt under control. And I said, well, while we're at it, let's get your sugar under control too. She's been diabetic since, oh my word, I don't even know when. I want to say at least since 2010, probably even before that. But anyway, she was hesitant at first. She didn't really want to do it because she knew what it would mean, giving up carbs and things like that. And I don't blame her for not wanting to give up carbs. I never wanted to do it either. But anyway, we started her out with the recommendations from the American Diabetic Association, which they said 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. I thought that was kind of ridiculous because I had had gestational diabetes and I knew that the higher the carbs were, the more my sugar went up. But you know what? Who am I to argue with such a prestige institution? So we did. We did the recommendations for about a week, and her blood sugar remained sky high. Granted, she was only testing it in the morning. Now, her numbers, just to give you an idea, they were over 200 every morning, and her A1C at this point was 7.6. So being a Christian, I started praying, asking God, well, Lord, you know what diabetes is. You know what causes it and what the issue is. So please help me to figure out how to help her. And what happened was we were at a used bookstore and my husband comes up to me and he's like, do you think this book would help? And it said 60 Ways to Lower Your Blood Sugar by Dennis Pollock, who I highly recommend you check out his channel, Beat Diabetes. You can reverse your type 2 diabetes. You can get off your medication by following a low carb diet. Anyway, his main point throughout the book was check your sugar. Check it after you eat. So doing that, her and I naturally gravitated towards a low carb diet. We started cutting the carbs because we saw all of the carbs raised her blood sugar. It didn't matter if they were whole grains or the so-called healthy carbs, they still raised her blood sugar. So we weren't doing keto exactly. It was, I'll just put it under the umbrella term of low carb because that fits a lot of different diets. So what happened though was over the course of about 4 months, I wasn't eating low carb, but I would have some of the meals that I was making for her. And I noticed after 4 months, not only did I lose 10 pounds pretty quickly, which I just assumed I was doing calorie counting at that point. I assumed it was the calorie counting, but it was actually me eating these low carb meals. And I found that there were things that were happening that were different. I noticed that when I would eat these low carb meals, I could do things after dinner. I still had energy to go and do something. Whereas in the past, I wanted to lay down after a meal. I noticed that I wasn't having these sudden drops in, I think it would be satiety. Like, so if I ate like a full bowl of pasta or any kind of heavy carb meal, it wasn't even heavy carb meals. I would say it was most meals. I would feel this incredible hunger about a half an hour after I ate. And I'm like, how in the world am I hungry? I just ate. When I was younger, I would eat again because I thought that that meant that I truly was hungry. I thought I was maybe just quickly digesting, but it wasn't that. I would then be incredibly full, overfull, barely able to move because I was so sick to my stomach. So when I got older, though, I'm like, well, I'm not going to eat anymore when I feel that way. I know I just ate. So I would be in the kitchen downing glasses of water trying to override that hunger signal, and I couldn't override it, which I find out later that's a hormonal thing. It's like you can't override it. It's the insulin sending a message to your brain saying that those carbs are covered, so therefore you need to eat again. But I wasn't getting that with these low carb meals. So I started doing some research. I knew about keto at least a year before I started it because my sister-in-law had been trying to go gluten-free. And there's, of course, that's leads you to a lot of keto recipes and stuff. But the thing is, I thought keto was a fad diet. And honestly, people treat it as a fad diet. They'll put these videos up that's like lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks, and that is so fad diet. That's absolutely a fad diet. So I never wanted to do it. I'm like, I ain't getting on this thing. I know how to lose weight. I had lost 50 pounds on Weight Watchers. Granted, I struggled for 6 years after that trying to keep that weight off. But, you know, and I was hungry all the time too. Anytime I stuck hardcore to Weight Watchers, I was hungry all the time. So I did notice though that as I'm eating these low carb meals, I feel more satisfied. So I'm like, you know what? Let me look into this. What is going on with this diet? Let me see what this is about. So I started watching videos. I started listening to talks. I started reading about it, and I found that there was a science behind it. There was a reason why it worked. And I mean, I wasn't really interested in the weight loss aspect of it. I wanted to know why I felt better. And the more research I did, the more I was like, wow, insulin plays a much bigger role than I thought it ever did. Let's just give it a try and see what happens. So I did. I full force, November 13th, 2019, I went on keto 100%. And within 4 days, I said, I'm going to be on this for life. I'm ready to do this for the rest of my life. Mainly because, and this is what I think is interesting, this is why I always stress the health aspect. In those 4 days, I hadn't lost any weight, but the change in how I felt was so dramatic that I said, I'm ready to do this for the rest of my life. Because the thing is, it's like you always hear, well, if you lose weight, you'll feel better. And I had lost 50 pounds on Weight Watchers. The only thing that really felt better was my feet. Physically, I did not feel better. I had to push myself. Oh, exercise. Exercise is so important. So, okay, I'm out there trying to exercise, but I had to force myself to exercise. That changed within 4 days. I wanted to exercise because I felt good. So that to me was interesting. Now, at day 28, I started making up a list of benefits because I wanted to remember where I was coming from. And I'm just going to read them to you real quick. So number one, not being hungry all the time. Number two, sugar cravings were gone. Now, the thing is, it's not that I don't still want to have something sweet, but there's a difference between wanting something and craving something. When you're craving something, you can't hardly ignore that craving. You want it so bad. It's different now. I don't have the sugar cravings anymore. I'll still see a bar of chocolate and I will still want it, but the craving isn't there. Number three, I had increased energy. I still have the increased energy. I still have enough energy to keep me going until at least 9:30 at night. And then I'll start to feel like sleepy, like I'm getting ready for bed. My body's winding down. I feel better all around. I was able to exercise more. I started doing squats within the first month. I didn't have that kind of energy before. No more draggy days, like I'm just dragging my backside around the house. No more feeling weak and lethargic after eating. Here's a part that I really hate bringing up because I feel it's so unladylike, but you know what? I'm going to put it out there. My family used to joke that we had the special ability to produce gas just from drinking water. But that also almost completely disappeared when I went keto. I was waking up on a regular basis with headaches in the middle of the night the headache would wake me up. I rarely get headaches anymore. Um, no more swelling in my feet and ankles. That was something that I would tell the doctor about, and it's just kind of shoulder shrug. Well, that's just part of you having high blood pressure and you getting older. But I would go over to visit someone, a friend, actually my sister-in-law. I'd go over to her house and they have pizza night every Friday night, and I'd be helping her make the pizzas, and I'd come home and my feet and ankles would be so swollen. Keto, once I went, well, again, I don't want to use the word keto, we'll say low carb. Once I went low carb, that disappeared. Even if I went to visit someone and we would be sitting there for a couple hours, like talking, I would come home and my feet and ankles would be swollen. Don't have that ever anymore. No more. That's completely gone. Um, about 6 months in, actually, so those were like the early benefits that I noticed, but I started keeping track of like other benefits as the years have gone on. 6 months into, or 7 months into the diet, I realized that I wasn't having to cough and clear my throat every morning when I would brush my teeth. That was something that the kids would hear me doing in the morning. That was gone. Um, it's funny because like a couple months after that, we went on vacation, and I had ice cream like every day while we were on vacation. Not a whole lot, just, a little bit. And that chronic cough, um, or I had a chronic cough. The chronic cough came back when I was eating the ice cream, and I'm like, interesting. So it's not that I never have ice cream now. It's like it's a one and done kind of thing. I won't have it like every single day. I used to have to wear shoes whenever I was getting stuff done in the kitchen because my feet would hurt so bad. I couldn't even spend like 10 minutes in the kitchen without my feet hurting. Now I'll have like what I call food prep day where I'm in the kitchen for several hours. I will wear my shoes in there for the several hours, but it'll take me a little while before I realize, oh, I better go get my shoes on. Um, I used to have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Sometimes 2 to 3 times a night, I would have to get up and use the bathroom. Now it's maybe once or twice a month that I might get up one time to go to the bathroom. I used to get cold sores on a regular basis. Now the only time I get them is if I have certain kinds of sugar. Uh, my aunt had made some fruitcake, and I had uh, what would equal one slice. I had that, and I got a cold sore in my mouth and in my nose, of all places. So it's certain kinds of sugar will bring that on, and I can recognize it more easily now because my diet is more narrow. I used to get heart palpitations. Actually, the month that I started this diet, the heart palpitations were so bad. I was getting them all day throughout the day. I was having problems going to sleep because of the heart palpitations. Um, about 2 years before I started this, one of the doctors had, suggested it's probably the caffeine that you're drinking and the coffee that's causing it. So I cut out caffeine for like 28 days. The reason I only went 28 days was because I had heart palpitations the entire time that I was off of coffee. And on the 28th day, the heart palpitations were so bad. And I'm like, so it's not the caffeine. But what happened was day 4, this was one of the deciding factors. Day 4, I was laying in bed, ready to go to sleep, but something was really weird. And I'm like, what in the world? I couldn't put my finger on it. Something was off. And then suddenly I realized I wasn't having any heart palpitations. I Everything was peaceful. My body was peaceful and calm. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, 4 days on the diet, and this is one of the benefits. I'm in. I'm in 100%. So last couple things. I didn't just stay, eating mostly keto. I want to say too, it's like in the beginning, I did track everything. I tracked the macros. I was doing like, the percentages and stuff like that with keto because I thought if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And then I took up a more carnivore challenge, which was hard at first, but um, I it's second nature now. But in 2020, I would say like fall of 2020, I did a couple carnivore challenges, and one of the things I noticed when I cut vegetables was yeast infections disappeared. And I had been getting those on a regular basis. So, okay, I'm fine leaving behind the vegetables. I also, 5 months into low carb, I got my last urinary tract infection. I've been getting them since I was in my 20s. So 20 years of urinary tract infections on a regular basis because I've got kidney stones too. But 5 months into low carb and I had my last urinary tract infection. I haven't had one since. It's been 3 years now since I've had a urinary tract infection. So, yes, that was definitely a bonus that I wanted to continue. One last thing is less indigestion. Actually, I'm someone who there's certain foods that I eat and I will have indigestion for hours. So, like cucumbers. I actually gave up cucumbers last summer because I can't take 8 hours of burping them anymore. It's not worth it to me. And it's not just burping them. Everyone's like, oh, well, I burp when I have the cucumbers too. It's like, it's not just the burping. I feel uncomfortable. I don't feel good when I eat them. So it's like, I love vegetables. I've always liked vegetables. I'm like the weird kid who actually looked forward to when my mom made Brussels sprouts. I enjoyed them. But doing a little bit of research and knowing how they affect my system, like feeling how they affect my system, it's not worth what I'm going through. So at this point right now, the way my diet looks is I can do meat and I can do dairy without, I don't get any indigestion when I eat meat and dairy. I get a teeny tiny bit if I add in tomatoes, which I like tomatoes. That's okay. It's minimal amounts of indigestion with the tomatoes. I can have onions in things, but I can't do raw onions. That's again 10 plus hours of indigestion if I eat raw onions. Um, but yeah, I can have them cooked and in something as long as it's not a whole lot. And I can do some garlic. Again, it has to be cooked though. Who puts raw garlic in things? It's like torture. But anyway, it's a very simple diet, but as you start to see some of the meals that I make, I have complicated meals. I've got a wide variety of foods that I eat. This diet is far from boring. And I always laugh when I hear someone say, "Oh, I don't have enough variety on keto. I don't have enough variety on carnivore." I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You can decide the level of restriction that you want, but for me it doesn't feel like restriction. I'm more restricted when I eat things that cause problems. I'm more restricted when I have something that gives me indigestion for 8 hours. I don't like feeling like that. I feel so much better and I'm less restricted when I have something that doesn't cause indigestion. Anyway, so yeah, I've been on this diet now for 3.5 years. Um, it's worth it to me. I can't imagine stopping it at this point. I would like to be on this for the rest of my life. When I say would like to be on it, I'm not sure what would stop me from doing that unless, we suddenly can't get meat anymore. But even then, there's nuts. So nuts aren't the greatest on my system. But if that's the route we have to go, that's what I would do. So anyway, I think that's about all I wanted to say in this video. Oh, people will probably wonder, what about the weight loss? Yes, I did lose weight. I lost 42 pounds on this diet. But to me, that was always secondary. You heard all the benefits that I listed. Those benefits far, far outweigh the weight loss. Even if, and I mean, granted, like looking down at my body, there's still a little bit of weight that I could probably lose because I still have loose skin. I've still got some fat. I don't care. I'm not concerned about losing it. I just want to feel good. So I will continue eating this way. In another video, I'll tell you more about my mom's story and how far she's come and how she reversed her diabetes. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.